Relly Mangubat here. You're watching Drum Basics. Our topic today is about stick repair. Hi. Um, Before we talk about the episode today, which is about the stick and how to repair it, I'm gonna share you a few experiences that I had back in the early 90s when I was just starting to play drums and that money stuff. So here in the Philippines, not everybody know that a lot of drummers are struggling in buying their drumsticks. So besides owning their own drums, it's very difficult to maintain a pair. So just to give you an idea why it's difficult to maintain one or to keep it alive as much as possible or to avoid breaking it. It's because back then drumsticks are very expensive and it would range from like 600 to like 800 a pair, and up until now you would notice that the good brands, the good kind, the better wood would cost you a fortune here in the Philippines. So just to share, when I was just starting to play the drums, I am preventing the breakage of my drumsticks, and that is very difficult because once your drumstick, um, it won't last that long, and if you've always been practicing staking patterns in the snare or in the snare pad, sooner or later you would have scars on your drumsticks, and eventually would lead to the breakage of the drumstick. So when I was growing up, I wanted to make my drumstick last because it's something that I would be challenged if it breaks. We are not a rich family, and since it's an expensive item and it would just something that you break and hit with, my dad won't just buy a pair for you, for me, rather. So I learned um, methods of how we can take care of the sticks, and also if in case it breaks, how to repair it. So this episode talks about that, and we'll talk about it shortly after this. Before we discuss how we can repair drumsticks, I just want to again acknowledge the BatCave studios that we're in right now. It's located in Antipolo, that's in Manila, in the Philippines. That's Antipolo City, by the way. So for those who wants to know more about Drum Ninja, the school, you just log in or just message me, one of my Facebooks, and those are gonna be flashed later on. And also you can subscribe and like this channel for more updates, for more videos of the drum basics, and I hope that you'd find some information, useful information for your drumming. Okay, so to begin with, so normally when you use your stick, um, you actually hit the snare rim for that tone that you for that particular sound and tone that you may need for a particular song, and this would actually create a dent and scratch, or a scar, should I say, on the stick. So the more usage of the stick would actually create mm, hundreds of scars. For every time you play it, practice, or if you bring your sticks in the venue, it would actually scratch it and put a scar on it. Most especially when you hit the cymbals, okay, particularly the hi-hat and the ride or the crash. If you do accent in a particular angle, it would actually create a scar, right? Until such time that your drumstick would already be filled up with scars and scratches and dents, up until the composition of the wood would be, well, obviously it's physics, would be softer. So using a brand new stick would allow you to get that particular tone and control that you need, and the sound output would be more, should I say, brilliant, more um, clearer compared to a worn out stick. Okay, so why? Because again, the more that you use the stick, the composition, the volume inside the stick, the wood per se, that builds up the stick gets softer up until such time that it breaks. Okay, but what causes the breaks? Technically, wrong usage of the stick, okay, would actually make the stick break. Considering that your sticks are really good, right? The wood is really good or strong or hard. Um, the technique that you use for the stick is something that would actually break it. So if you're using the wrong technique, if you're playing your drums using your stick and just putting so much force on it, obviously it would break because it's just a wood. It's just a stick, a wood. It's made from wood. So um, we need to make sure that we're using the right technique. Okay, we're not hitting the drums harder than the usual, right? Just to get that tone. There are ways for you to get a louder, bigger sound versus hitting the drum set to get versus hitting the snare, the kit harder to get that particular tone. There's a particular angle, position of the head where you can hit it straight on to get that particular sound or that particular loudness and dynamics that you need for a song. So that would, number one, affect the breakage of the stick. Two, if the stick is really worn out, and technically if you use the stick for X number of days, weeks, or months, if it lasts that long, as I said earlier, it's physics. The composition of how the wood is actually molded together gets weaker and gets softer inside, and it would actually break after a few more uses. Okay, if you're very keen on using or very keen on your sound and you want a heavier sound, and if you're keen with the weight of the stick and you need that as a leverage to make a particular if you want to achieve a particular sound, yeah, you can change the stick, you get a new one, you use a new one, so you can achieve that. But however, as I said, it breaks the stick once it's worn out. And three, if the mate of the stick is really something that it's not reliable, if the builder of the stick or the factory of the stick is not really used to using hardwood. There's different kinds of wood. You can research that in the net. The harder the wood is, I think it's the better stick. But there's a lot of wood out there that you can use for stick building, and there are some woods that are not really advisable to use for building a stick. Right. However, If the stick itself was made from a soft wood, obviously it would not last. Maybe it would actually just last for 2 songs and then it breaks. So just watch out for those 3 things. 3 things would actually allow you to, or give you that particular idea of how the stick would live, how long, and it would actually prevent you from playing a worn out stick on a gig, or in the middle of the song your stick breaks. That's something that we don't want to happen with you. Instead of you just enjoying your playing your music and your band, and then that happens, your stick breaks, and that's something that we need to talk about on another episode of how to continue playing if that happens. However, yep, those are the 3 things that you need to know and be aware of in case the stick breaks. Okay. Okay. So right now we're looking at a pair of sticks. These are worn out sticks, and I just want to explain what I thought. Um, when I say worn out, this is how it looks like. So this is an almost breaking stick, and these are the things that I talked about earlier. These are the scars, the dents, the scratches, whatnot. The war scars, should I say? These were the parts that has been shedded when you're playing. Okay, so this part here is the part that hits the rim of the snare, and look at it. It's almost just a couple more use of this stick. I'm sure it would break. But that's how a stick looks like when it's about to break. Okay? Worst of them all is this particular stick when technically this stick, the second one, is already broken. So look. Haha! Two parts of the stick that actually broke. And this is a typical breakage. Right? And this is something that we may need to think over if should we still use it or not. But those are the examples. Okay. Now we need to before we start repairing the sticks. Okay, I'll just put it here. We are going to talk about the materials that we will be needing for us to repair the sticks. Okay, so let's talk about that now. All right, so let's talk about the materials that we need for us to repair our drumstick or broken drumstick. Okay, so let me just describe this. This is a regular super glue. This actually is works like a bonding compound, like a stronger one. It's not the one that you use for paper, but this one is the stronger glue. And you know what I mean, right? There's a lot of brands. I actually chose. It says here German technology, but this one is made from here in the Philippines, and it's a local brand. It's the cheapest among those brands. Okay, and a thread there, and this is your regular scissors here. That's about it. That's all the things that you need, materials that we need to repair our drumstick. So let's start repairing our drumstick now. Okay? So here's the 2 piece of the broken, 1 piece here, 1 piece there. The 2 pieces of the broken stick that we are going to repair. The first thing that we need to do is open the glue there, and we need to put a hole on the actual glue. and this would actually be like this. Okay, so just press it. Alright. And once there's a hole on it, like so, we just have to put this back. So you know what to do with this. Okay? So there. So let me just close it just to make sure that it doesn't dry. Okay? So the next one is we need to make sure that the two fits together on the part that it has actually broke. So make sure that those two pieces would actually fit through where the actual broke happened. Okay, it needs to be on the same place. Okay, so the next one, we need a thread. We need to make sure that it's that long enough to um, to to wrap around the stick. Okay, so let's begin. I'll show you the steps on how to do it. Okay, so here's a broken stick. Okay, on the harder or the bigger part of the chunk that was that broke. For this one, this is a much thinner one than this. So I'll cross-reference the bigger one. As I said, you choose the bigger slice or bigger chunk. Okay, and what you need to do first is you need to put the super glue here. Over there. Just enough to cover the breakage. Okay, there. The super glue is now on. Okay, I'm gonna let it dry a little, but you need to do this fast. So the next one is the other one, so make sure. Okay, right, just put it all over. Okay, like so. And let it dry. Okay, I'll just put it here on my side. Close it. Just make sure that it doesn't dry because we're going to need this. Okay, the next one is don't cut the thread, but we need to make sure that we wrap this around one of the sticks. Okay, so I get this thinner one. It's easier. And what I need, I'll just tie a knot like this. Okay, there. Just tie a knot. It's just you know, I'm not, you know, trying to double the thread. It's just a regular thread, one piece, and then I'm just tying a knot. That simple. Okay, so just tie a knot, regular knot. Yeah, there. Don't touch the part that has the glue, otherwise you will have glue in your hands and it's gonna be difficult for you to. Okay, so I've just to make it a little stronger, gonna tie it again. There. So just to prove it that it's already there. So I haven't cut the thread yet. It's still, but there, it's already. This is not magic, okay? But the thread is already there. If you would notice, I've tied it. Okay. So there is actually super glue, but I'm sure it already had dried up. So let's do it again. Put a glue on it. There. Okay. and then put that down. The bigger one, just put a glue there. Alright, so technically there's a glue that had already been dried and the new applied glue, and we put it back together as to where it actually broke. Okay, there. So technically the thread has been sandwiched, and the actual breakage where it was sliced in half is where actually I put in the upper stick. Okay, so the next one with this particular thread, okay, you're just going to wrap it around. Wrap it there like this. Okay, wrap it. Okay, tight. Make sure that it's tight enough as to not break the particular thread. Just right to hold the stick. Okay, up until the last part. Okay, so when you reach the last part, you need to make a knot again. So I'm gonna make a knot here, here. Here's the other half of the thread, and there. That's a knot already. So just to make sure, I'll just put another one. Okay, so you won't see the thread that much because it's black. It doesn't really matter what color you use, but for me, I like black, the color black. Okay, so technically, we wrap around this part of the stick here. Okay, all right. So what are we doing? Just to give you some terms, this particular method is a medical method. It's a method called tourniquet. Medical record because this particular type of is something that of method is something that we use for first aid, for us to stop the bleeding. Tie um, um, let's say a fresh cloth on the wound, and the wound would actually stop. But technically what it does, before it clots the blood, technically it's closing the wound, right? So it stops the bleeding, but it's clotting the blood. But technically when you tie it together, or cross it or cross tie it, it stops the bleeding because it technically put backs what was um, broken, or what was actually um, scratched, or something like that. So technically, for some tourniquet, I won't talk much about it, but it's technically it's science, and it helps you know put back things together. That's how I understand it. Okay, but yep, tourniquet is right here. You can read about this, and that you can research more about it, more about it in the net. Okay, so the next step is, so once we have actually tied it down, we use the glue again. Technically, it's already dry, so we use the glue again. Then we apply the glue to the string. There. This is not much, just for the string to stick there. So I'm not putting that much. I'm just, you know, putting glue around it. Okay. The next step is to make it tighter. We crisscross on the other end towards that side this time. So it would look like that there's a cross going back. Okay. And you need to reach the other side. of the stick. I can smell the glue right now, and I know that it's actually getting stronger. Okay, so I'm gonna um, my advice is to do this 3 times. So I've reached the last part here, and I'm gonna tie it again here. Again, don't touch the part that has been glued, so you won't have problems with your hands getting dirty with glue. And mind you, it's gonna be sticky. All right, and as I mentioned, the third part, I'm gonna make it 3 times. So I'm gonna go down again. But again, before I do, I'm gonna put the glue again. There. Okay. Then I'll go down the third time. So there, going down. And technically, if you would notice, the stick is already repaired. It's already there. It's already put back together. You see? Now let's check the durability later. Okay. All right. So the last part is just going to tie it. Okay. Just make sure that it doesn't. I'm gonna tie it twice. Okay. Right. One more. Make sure. There. And then with your scissors, you see that's a string tied. Okay, the scissors are here. Okay. There you go. Done. So it's already back together, and we just have to let it dry for a couple of minutes. Right? It dries really fast. This is a really strong glue, I think, but this is the first time that I use this brand. Yep, the Gecko brand. It says Gecko. You can see here. It says super glue, and the name of the super glue is Gecko. I'm not endorsing this, but it's the first. When I bought this in the store. When I'm choosing the brand, I was attracted by the frog there. See? But no, not the frog, but the gecko. It's a lizard. Sorry. There. It looks like a frog. All right. Now let's check the durability. Let's go to the jazz kit and see if this would work. Hi there. Okay, I'm gonna sit down upright. The camera is tilted towards the snare so you can actually see. So just proof I'm not using a different stick. It's the same stick, the one that had been dried up a couple minutes ago, the one that we repaired. This was a broken stick before, and the other half, which would be almost breaking very soon. Okay, so the right hand and the left hand, as you can see, you can actually hear the difference of the weight, but it's actually a stick that you could use for rudiments and practice. So instead of you buying a new stick, it's actually something that you could use now. Right? Where? Right and left. Okay. Bottom part. Again, this is the stick that we repaired earlier. We can use it again. Okay, so there are a few questions that you may actually ask me. The most easiest way of of repairing a stick is through a scotch tape or a duct tape or whatnot. Well, the reason why I'm not using that or something that I don't really suggest is because When you put tape on it, the weight of the stick would actually be different. And for me, I'd like the feeling of holding an actual stick. If it's duct tape or if there's a tape already, it doesn't feel right. It's as if I'm holding a different one, a different. Um, but technically, it's not a stick anymore. I'm holding plastic. So um, I'm not really. But that's something that I don't really advise. Okay. And that's the reason why I came up with this method. This information is something that actually I learned when I was growing up, when I was studying in the College of Music here in the Philippines. And that, as I mentioned, money was tight, and we cannot buy things right away. So just to make the ends meet, we come up with these things, right? This information was shared to me by one of my mentors and my colleagues, um, uh, and a well-known um, drummer here in the Philippines and in the States as well. He's internationally known. His name is Michael Alba. Um, and when we were growing up and studying in UP, I saw him do this. And he actually shared the idea. And that actually made a difference of me just you know, trying to buy a new pair and sacrificing my lunch or my snack just to save for a new pair. Instead, remember, if you're studying, whatever pattern or a groove or a rudiment, you need to make sure that you take care of yourself, and it's just not the drums or the sticks or your gears that is ready for the practice. You need to make sure that you are ready for the practice. So you need to eat well. You need to make sure that there's that your brains or your brain cells are functioning, and that's there's enough food for it to do so. And so don't sacrifice your health or your food or your tummy for practice. Eat first, and then mind you, it's gonna be the retention is actually noticeable. Okay, so this information is something that I had discovered back when I was growing up as a drummer. And here in the Philippines, sad to say, there are some drummers who did this, and you know who you are. There's a lot, and eventually, the kids nowadays could actually just buy a brand, a local brand, or technically, there's a lot of factories now that create sticks in different countries, and they're selling it cheaper than the regular ones. You could actually use those. And this is just usual, something that you would actually, be shocked, and that this is a cultural thing. As drummers growing up in the 90s was something that is special. You experienced those things back then. So, just to make a recap, again, the parting words for you guys. Um, you know, Loving your instrument gives back. Uh, you get back what you love, and this particular instrument is something that is equally loving, should I say. So the more love that you give to your instrument, the more um, um, effort that you put in to your grooves, to your sound, to everything that you do on the kit on that particular instrument, the instrument would actually just repay you equally the effort. So if you love your instrument, if you love your gears, just take care of it. Um, this is the second to the last episode that we are actually going to talk about repairing your gears and how to make it live longer. Right? In the past episodes, we've discussed about cymbals. We've discussed about a few things, cleaning and repairing and maintenance. Right? There's just one more that we are going to discuss, and that's going to be on the next episode. That we're going to talk about the last care and maintenance that you may need to know. But for now, this is how you take care of your sticks. So that's how you repair them. This is another episode of Drum Basics. I hope you like this episode. Just visit my sites and like this channel. Subscribe. Just click the red button that says subscribe. And for now, I hope you enjoyed this episode and more drummings and more drum life for you. Thank you very much for watching. So long.